Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I am Mark Orca Hoffmeyer.
And I am Jay Red Wine Highball Cluett. Welcome you aboard Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. On this show, Mark and I have dived our way through the entire Deep Blue Sea trilogy, scene by scene. Now looking at some Deep Blue Sea adjacent films. That's films directed by Rennie Harlin, featuring aquatic action or sharks. And when you ask your average person on the street to name a shark movie, obviously most of them will say Deep Blue Sea. Some will try and be funny and say Sharknado or Shark Tale or The Color of Money. But if you look hard enough, you might find someone who manages to reach into their distant memory and dredge up the film we're talking about today. Jaws. It's the what is Jaws?
We're doing it.
We're finally doing Jaws.
We never thought we'd do this.
We said we never would. The whole point of these was me educating myself on shark films I hadn't seen or deep sea films I hadn't seen. We haven't run out of those. There's still hundreds, but this is as celebration of Deep Sea the podcast because Mark and I have just finished Con Air the podcast. So that means that Deep Sea the podcast is going back to weekly, listeners. You're going to get us every week again. We're going to get me every week again and Mark every other week again, but you're going to get an episode every week. And so we thought to celebrate that, let's take out the big gun and let's talk about Jaws. People have done this minute by minute. There's at least two. But today we're going to talk about the head, the tail, the whole damn thing, all in one episode. So what is Jaws? Well, it's a 1975 shark movie that many describe as a horror film. Some remain steadfast as an adventure film. Either way, it stars Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, along with the likes of Lorraine Gary, Murray Hamilton. It's set on the island town of Amity, who are experiencing something of a shark problem just days before the upcoming 4th of July weekend. We're recording this the day after 4th of July, or the 5th of July. Anyway, we need a guest who likes nothing more than swimming with bow-legged women. From the Lambcast and Kirkham Movie Day, Richard Kirkham. Welcome back to the show, Richard.
Good to be back. If it swims in the ocean, I'm not going there.
Okay, Jaws might be one of it is. I would say it's one of the top 5 most influential creature features of all time.
I thought you just picked movies.
Like, since we're a shark show, let's stick with like creature features.
Sure.
But you're right, it is movies. I mean, the summer blockbuster and the marketing and the influencers and just everything about it. But do you think it's what? King Kong, Frankenstein, Godzilla, Jaws, Alien? Like what are the most influential creature features of all time, would you say? And is this number 1?
That's a solid top 5.
That is a good list of creature features, and it's clearly full of influential films. Let's face it, Frankenstein opens the doorway for all of those Universal films. King Kong makes special effects an essential part of creature features. But this movie changed movies. It changed the way all movies are made and released. It changed the way marketing is done. It influenced a generation of movie makers unlike any other film. Maybe the only film that's comparable in terms of influence on filmmakers is Star Wars. Yeah. And even then, I think maybe you'd have a pretty close call between the two. To me, Jaws is at the top of your list of creature features easily.
So I would say so too. Given, like, I feel like I don't know if this was the first shark film. It certainly feels like it was the first shark film, but there have been so many copycats of, orca, tentacles, grizzly, so many like from that era. But then every shark film since then seems like goes back and parodies Jaws in some way. Even Deep Blue Sea, we'll get to it later. But it's just being the first blockbuster. It's the first movie. You know, when people say like, what do you consider an old film? For me, the cutoff is 75. Old films are pre Jaws is an old film. Post Jaws is a modern film.
Wait, would you say Night of the Living Dead should be in the most influential ever? Because look at now.
I don't know if I would count zombies as being creature features. I guess they're in the same realm.
Yeah.
Like when you said Frankenstein, I paused from it. I was like, yeah, I guess Frankenstein is a creature feature. It's a
Universal monsters.
Yeah.
And then you have Nosferatu, but that was almost all destroyed.
Yes.
So I don't think people rediscovered that till later.
I think I'd be willing to say that zombie movies or creature features without too much difficulty. Whether or not that makes them as significant as all of the shark-related features is another question, because let's face it, if you start counting them, there may be more zombie movies, but there are a lot more successful shark movies than zombie movies.
I'm going to do it right.
As well.
And by the way, that'll be an infographic for Rotten Tomatoes at some point.
Yeah, I'll make that. Okay, I'm going to do it. Frankenstein, King Kong, Godzilla, Night of the Living Dead, Jaws. That's it. That's my list.
I liked Alien being in there, so I'm sad that Alien's gone.
Yeah.
What would I sub out for Alien? What was your third one?
Yeah. King Kong.
Yeah, King Kong, Frankenstein.
Oh, Godzilla.
Okay. I haven't seen Godzilla, the one from the 50s.
You haven't seen Godzilla? What the hell are you doing on this podcast?
I have seen Godzilla vs. Biollante. We did an episode on it.
Hey, there we go.
I've seen the Roland Emmerich Godzilla. Still have a soft spot for that bad film. I've seen all of the Godzilla films since then. I've only seen one Japanese Godzilla film, which is Biollante. And I still stand by every King Kong film was better than every Godzilla film.
I love it. We should talk Aquatic Mayhem in the King Kong movies.
I mean, it's on the list. There's a deleted scene from the 05 film.
Well, look, Godzilla rises from the sea, so every Godzilla film needs to be on your podcast somehow.
That's how
you're right.
Nick got us to talk about Biollante. That's how he got it
Listen,
in there. So.
2014 Godzilla, there's a scene where an overhead shot of Godzilla swimming in between two aircraft carriers. And it's like one of the coolest shots I've seen.
That is a good shot.
In the last decade, probably. I think it's amazing. And yeah, so this is going to sound really bad, but I've read Jaws log. I'm looking at Jaws art in my room. I have Jaws Sperry's. I have a Jaws coaster. I ducked out. I was working on a commercial for the Dump one time, which is a restaurant. Not a restaurant. It's a furniture store, and I snuck away and I bought the Blu-ray edition of Jaws sometime between 2012 and 2014. Like Jaws has forever, ever been in my life, but I'm getting a little tired of the narrative of, oh yeah, like Jaws was hard to shoot. Like, yeah, because you shot on the ocean. Like, hey, the shark didn't work. Yeah, because you practiced it. You didn't have enough time. You put it in a tank and then you went in the ocean.
When they built it, they forgot it was going to be used in water when they built it.
And so I mean, I've worked on shoots before that have had tons of problems with less issues than they had. So I just love this narrative of people going like, Jaws was really hard to shoot. I'm like, yeah, because it was on the ocean and it was 73, 74. Like, and it was the first time.
Well, they were doing it before other people were doing it, and there was nobody who had that kind of experience doing it. They invented a lot of the things that are going on, and they basically set the path to avoid for everybody who came later.
Exactly, except for Waterworld. The one thing that I love the most about Jaws, there's two things. Rewatching it again, I noticed all the ensemble staging, and I have a Jaws book, and I went through and looked at all of the storyboards that Steven Spielberg did, and the ensemble staging is very evident. So I love that he planned this movie with beautiful ensemble shots. Two, I think most movies learned an incorrect lesson from this movie, and I wish they would have learned another one where the weather delayed them, the sea delayed them, the shark delayed them. And during this time, they during one of the documentaries, they said it became a film where the characters were found and monologues were made, and they were rewriting it every night, and characters were finding moments to just add their characters in it. And so they used their downtime to make a movie a film. But I guess the one thing too is there's a reason why Jaws or Bruce isn't in the movie much, is because it doesn't work. And there's a lot of creature features that came out later that were like, yeah, you just don't show your monster much because like that's what Jaws did. I'm like, yeah, but they only did that because they couldn't show it. So Jaws has a reason why you don't show the monster. But I think a lot of other movies were like, yeah, you just don't show it because Jaws doesn't show it. Like, I think that's the wrong lesson to learn from it. But it's still one of my favorite films of all. It is my favorite film of all time. Deep Blue Sea is my favorite movie. But I just think it's an interesting thing where, hey, we're going to copy Jaws and not show much of the monster, which is budgetary reasons, of course. But like, there's like, yeah, we'll just pull Jaws and not show it. But that's not really what Jaws wanted. That's what it became. So it's an interesting lesson to learn from that film.
I do kind of want to see the multiverse version where we see Like the shark was working the whole time. What did Spielberg do? I want to see that
Yeah,
film.
that version of the movie will be interesting.
Deep
Well,
Rising, probably.
all horror movies run into the same problem when they decide that they're going to hold off on showing their creature, monster, fearsome, whatever it is that's going to show up in the last act. Uh, they're really solid movies, and then they get to that last act, and it all falls apart because it's now all about that reveal. And that's the reveal is not the thing in Jaws. That's part of what happens. It's still about the characters. It's still about what happens with our three main heroes on the boat, the way they interact with each other in reaction to the monster. It's not seeing the monster killing people. You know, we only see that clearly one time. Everything else is implied. But when you get the modern technology out there, everybody wants to play with it. They want to do something, and when they get to the end of their films, they stop thinking about the characters and they think only about their creature.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And you know what I found out is that movies that I wrote an article for Rotten Tomatoes where I counted the time of all the monsters in a lot, like dozens of movies. And it's actually, they have higher critical scores and they make more money when you show more of the monster, which I found to be really interesting. So there's this kind of like Alien and Jaws have this mystique of like, don't show your creature, but there was very distinct reasons to do that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that I've been thinking about lately when it comes to Jaws.
I mean, the main times that they don't show the shark in Jaws, they still like imply its movements. So they have the barrels attached to it, they have the pier. And you can kind of imagine, okay, so they still would have done that, but then you would just cut to of the shark swimming underwater, cut back to the barrels. So it might not have changed it much. They would just had a few more like insert shots of it's going this way and it's turn around and it's jumping or whatever.
Yeah. Like in Shark in Venice.
Yes, exactly like in Shark in Venice.
How many times have you watched this movie, Richard? And I was watching it again recently, and Jay, I'm gonna bleep myself, but there's a scene where the shark jumped out when he's chumming the water, and I've seen this 1,000 times. So I went, oh, oh, shark! Like I just yelled out that word. Does this still get you? Because this is one of your favorite films, and I presumed you've watched it many times.
Well, I started calculating years ago. I still haven't quantified it, but I know that I've watched it at least 4 times a year since home video was invented. And, so somewhere around 1982 or 83, I started watching it on a regular basis. I've also seen it on the big screen on a regular basis at least once a year, usually 2 or 3 times a year. I just saw it night before last on the big screen. So I know that this is a movie that I've seen well over 100 times without even thinking hard about it. And it's probably closer to 200 or 300 times.
See, I was looking at my spreadsheet that I keep. That's a normal person. The last time I watched this was 11 years ago. Which was prior to me knowing that Mark or Richard even existed. So in our entire friendships, I haven't watched both of your favorite films.
Why? Once again, my question repeats itself. Why are you on this show?
Hey, he's learning.
Until yesterday, but I had seen it before. I'm currently wearing a Jaws t-shirt. I've got shark socks on. Like this is a film that I can't remember not existing. But also, I was watching this time thinking, like, I don't remember some of these scenes being in this film just because it's not. I've seen it maybe 5 times at most, ever. So yeah, it's not. This is why I don't.
Well, you don't repeat films anyway.
I do.
You're not.
I don't.
You're not the kind of person who would ever go to a theater the second time to see a movie.
That's true. I've only ever done that once because I passed out the first time I saw Looper. And that's a different story. That's still unclear as to what happened there. That's medical issues. But I do repeat watch films a lot at home. Like I've seen Jurassic Park 3 times this year already. Like I watched Deep Sea 2 every week for 10 weeks. The whole film.
It's worth it.
It's a fun film. But Jaws.
What is your block on Jaws?
I just don't feel compelled to go back and see it often. There is nothing wrong with it. It's a 5 out of 5, a 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, whatever your score is. It's a perfect film. but it's not one that like draws me back. I think the quality of Jaws comes from the characters mainly. They are really well drawn characters. They develop throughout the film. There's no like clear arc. There's no simple arc, I should say, where like Brody hates the water, then he loves the water. That's not his only. Like, there's developments in his character as he goes along. Like, when he's so happy when they catch the tiger shark, and then he gets the slap from Mrs. Kintner. There's some real hard hitting emotional moments where, compared that to Jurassic Park, there are fewer. That has more dinosaurs and fun. There's a couple. There's the flea circus scene, but there's more of Jurassic Park is more like entertaining, whereas Jaws feels more grown up, more adult, I guess.
That's a great point.
I can see that.
That's a great, because like Knight's Tale, right? It's a hangout picture.
Yeah.
Like, there's a moment where the guy dies in the beginning. He's like, oh, I guess I'll become a knight. And he does a training montage. He becomes a knight. And then they start making money. And then he gets caught for a little bit. And like, oh, well, you're free to go. Like, it's a total hangout picture. This one, like, it's beautiful. And it's a gorgeous movie. But yeah, the slap and the kills and the Jaws, the mayor, the ferry ride, like it's an ordeal and it's a stress bomb. Like, I feel like sometimes stress bombs aren't the best. Like Hot Fuzz, I think, is a movie you could watch a lot because it's just hot fuzz.
How often do you watch Uncut Gems? Like...
no, thank you. And you know, another thing I realized about this rewatch is that I love that Richard Dreyfuss in this movie is Hooper. He's not the stereotypical oceanographer or the scientist. Like, he's a cool guy. Like, he's you know,
he's
I
a
think,
hippie.
yeah, most movies I think would kind of be like, well, I'm the tech guy with the computers and blah 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 blah. But he gets super pissed at Brody. He can crush styrofoam cups like they're nothing. He brings
Making
over
faces at
wine. He
Quinn.
has drinks. Like, he's down to roll. He's down to yell at people. He's got a sense of humor. I just think that it's such a nice change of pace that all three of these characters aren't defined by one thing. And I think they found that when they were looking for the shark. But I love, like, just that. I think in most movies, Hooper would be the nerd, I guess. And he is not at all, for lack of a better term. I'm just saying stereotypically from that. And I actually have a friend named Jay Hooper who is an oceanographer. And he's like out on the ocean all the time. And he's the coolest dude you'd ever meet. I saw him once pour an entire beer on the carpet, and the carpet just sucked it up. He's like, watch this, man. And there was a hotel carpet. He just poured it into it, and the carpet just went, the beer was gone.
So it's sponge she'd found in the sea.
Pretty amazing. But like, I don't know. I like that about him. I like that.
In a contemporary movie, Hooper would be comic relief.
Yes.
But they don't really have a character that is comic relief in this movie. All three characters have humorous moments. They all are equally involved in the story, even though maybe their time is disproportionate, but they're all part and critical of what's going on in the story here. And it's so nobody feels like a joke. It's not like, well, we can just laugh this guy off and not worry about him. And they all get serious moments too. Everybody remembers the monologue that Quint does on the boat. One of the best things about that monologue is watching Hooper's face while Quint is telling this story, because it's like he's absolutely horrified and fascinated and compelled to watch this thing, and he's not saying anything. It's one of those performances where here's a real person behaving in a way a real person would when listening to this crazy guy explain why he's crazy.
Yeah.
And in that scene, when you have them all like comparing their scars in that beautiful scene, like that's when Quint comes around to Hooper, and he doesn't come around to him like saying like, "Hey, you're all right." He comes around to him by like looking at Brody, like you can kind of tell like they're bonding about this other guy through looking at each other. It's real like unusual acting, but you can tell exactly what's going on. They're just phenomenal characters and actors and everything. Even though Robert Shaw was drunk his entire life, I feel like.
and there's also a scene too I love where Brody pulls the wrong knot and lets loose the tanks, and Hooper just gives him what for. And eventually, when Hooper leaves, Quint looks at Brody and is like, "Hey, man, next time talk to me about the knots." So yeah. I like that you have this very heavy Chekhov's tanks and foreshadowing, but then you get this really nice character moment of like, "Say, man, just chat with me before you do that. Like he gets his back, but it's also a heavy foreshadowing moment as well. So it's like you balance that with a tiny character moment. So I just love that about this movie and how they do that.
So he unties the wrong knot. Earlier in the film, he picks up the wrong phone when he's at home. Does he do like pick up the wrong thing? I'm trying to think if there's like other times he picks up the wrong thing.
They should have music. He picks up the wrong thing, whoa, like something like that. It just messes it up.
Like
And before we get
sound of it.
before
Feeds the wrong dogs.
he's walking one day and he has the wrong kid. He's like, wait, where'd you go? So I have a quick question for you. If you could write any 3 creature features, and that like when someone walks up to you and your legacy are 3 creature features, which 3 would you pick, Richard?
Alien, Jaws, and the third one. We're going to count Harryhausen films?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'd go Jason and the Argonauts.
Oh, wow. Alien, Jaws, Jason, Argonauts. Jay?
Jurassic Park. The Lost World Jurassic Park. I mean...
And you're going to fix Jurassic Park 3, right?
I'm going to fix Jurassic Park 3, and I'll fix some things in the Lost World. No, Jurassic Park, yes, but I feel like with that one, I wouldn't get any credit for writing it, because like David Koepp doesn't get credit for writing Jurassic Park. Martin Crichton gets credit for writing Jurassic Park. Whereas Peter Benchley, I've not read Jaws, but I hear it's not very good, the book. So I feel like having written Jaws, Carl Gottlieb gets more credit than Peter Benchley does. So Jaws, I'll take Jaws as well. I love Alien, but is that a script film? That's an atmosphere, that's an effects, that's a casting. Yeah, it's not an Alien. It is a fantastic one, and I'll take King Kong. I love King Kong. All of the King Kongs.
Oh, wow. Peter Jackson's?
That's my favorite one. Yeah.
I'm going to say Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, of course.
Deep Rising. And do aliens count?
Sure.
Like alien drug dealers?
Sure.
All right, well, I'm going to say Dark Angel then, because it's about intergalactic drug dealing aliens battling Dolph Lundgren. So David Koepp actually wrote it under a pseudonym. So I would say, yeah, like Dark Angel, Deep Blue Sea, Deep Rising. And then everyone would be like, those are good. That's fun. Like I like that. I'm like, yeah, I know, because they're good. So like, that's it. Those would be my 3.
You wrote 2 films I hadn't heard of before I started talking to you.
That's perfect. I love it. Because listen, Deep Rising is beautiful.
It's a great film. I'd never heard of it before we covered it.
It's beautiful. And Dark Angel's insane. Like Dolph Lundgren's just calling aliens a-holes during a police chase because they're trying to get drugs from them.
What's the one with the aliens selling drugs in when they've landed? Alien Nation, is that it? With
they're selling drugs?
Yeah, well, it's like it's like they are illegal immigrants. Their spaceship has crashed on Earth or landed on Earth or whatever, and they are integrating into the society. This whole, I don't know, huge population of aliens, and somewhere in there's a group that are drug dealing aliens. I think James Caan is in this movie.
Actually, let me write that one. Let me write Dark Angel and then Buckaroo Banzai. 3 funky alien movies.
Oh yeah, let's all write Buckaroo Banzai. That's awesome.
It. There it is.
I'd like to say Attack the Block, but I feel like I'm not the right person to have written Attack the Block. That feels inappropriate. But I'd like to have inspired it, and then let somebody else write it.
You just told somebody, hey, that'd be a good idea if aliens attack a apartment block.
Yeah.
And then story by Jay Cluitt.
Still
That's
counts.
it. Story by Jay Cluitt.
I love it. Yeah. So, what's been your journey with this movie? Like you've watched it like when you were a kid. Like how has it changed from when you were younger to being an adult to being everything? Like as you've progressed, I feel like movies change. Has this one changed for you throughout the year?
Well, yeah, of course it does, because you've got different experiences. The first time you see something like this, it makes an impression on you that is hard to get over. I've told this story before. I saw this movie with 2 of my buddies at a theater, a neighborhood theater, and it was opening week. It might have been opening day. I can't quite remember that, but I know it was opening week. And one of my friends that went with us didn't have any idea what it was about. He thought it was a documentary. So we're going into this movie, sitting down, the movie starts, and you have that opening scene, and we're all sinking into our seats, and we're getting deeper and deeper in our seats because it's anxiety inducing. And then you have the moment with Ben Gardner appearing suddenly at the bottom of his boat. And I literally saw 400 people move a foot above their seat. They all levitated. This was a communal experience that was happening. And that first week, it was awesome. Everybody had that experience. Now, I know that Ben Gardner's head is coming out of that damn boat. I've seen this movie 200 plus times. It still makes me jump. Yeah. Even the timing is just perfect on that. They reshot that scene in the pool later because it wasn't clear enough, and they did a good job fixing it because it's still perfect. And with the music note to go along with it, it just makes you react. But as I've watched the movie over and over again, that scene with the monologue has taken on so much more meaning to me as an adult than it did when I was watching it as a kid. As a kid, it was a creepy story. As an adult, I'm looking at this, watching, this is how this person became the human being that they are. And it's not a good story. It's a horror story inside of this adventure film. And you understand the chief of police, you think, well, he's just a cop who's way in over his head. But you're watching the movie. The more I watch the movie, the more I come to appreciate Brody is not only doing the best that any human being could do, he's doing the best any of us could do. We're not superheroes. We're not Rambo jumping on the boat and going out with our harpoon gun to take care of this problem. He doesn't want to be on the boat. He wants to keep going back in. He wants to get the bigger boat, but he does what he has to do. And that's what, that's one of those things that as an adult watching it, I think there's something admirable in what's happening here. The shame that he feels when he's confronted by Mrs. Kittner, that's a guilt that I think anybody who is a parent is going to know. They're going to think, I have screwed up somebody's life. I have not helped them the way I was supposed to. I have let the world down. And you think about that a little bit the first time you see it, but the more you see it and the more your life changes, the easier it is to relate to the horrifying elements that go along with it. And like I said, every time I see the movie, there's something else that I'm kind of focusing on and appreciating. So yeah, it changes as you're watching it more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay, has that done anything to you or no?
I don't have children, so I can.
Thank you.
What about your dogs?
Yes.
Pipette gets eaten.
I'm very glad you do not see Pippa get eaten.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we got just to have it's not confirmed Pippa's been eaten.
The floating stick is enough. That's another one of this.
Yeah,
that's like the clicking of the fishing reel and the barrels and the pier coming back.
I've thrown enough sticks in the sea that my dogs haven't gone and got for me to to believe deep down that Pippa's still out there. He's fine. He's fine. Pippa came back. But yeah, the shot of Mrs. Kittner just being the last one left at the shore searching for her son, and that the bloody popped inflatable washed up on the shore. It's grueling. It's not a happy scene. And just this whole scene before that is so tense because we know Brody's got his eye on the sea. He's watching, but no one else knows what he's doing. So all these people keep on coming up and bothering him and standing in his way and blocking his view. And had they but not been in the way, the things probably still would have gone the same. Alex Kittner still would have been inside that shot. But it's just so tense watching him and guy with the bad hat and.
He gets a bad hat, Harry.
That's a line that's famous from this film, just from the supporting character with a terrible swimming cap.
You know what I was thinking about too? Where growing up, I watched every horror movie. I really did. And movies like with Freddy or Halloween or Jason, they legitimately never scared me. I don't know why that was, but because since I was a child watching it, 10 years old, and he was just killing Randy teenagers, just like camp counselors, like that wasn't me. So when I watch movies like It, or I'm gonna say it, Ernest Scared Stupid, or Jaws, where children are killed, like Spielberg was smart in that this movie you have a co-ed killed, and then you have just an innocent bystander going to help kids. You have a child, you have a dog, you have a sea captain, and then another dude gets decapitated. But you have the whole gamut of things being consumed in this movie. And I grew up in Florida too. And, I go up to Minnesota and I would go on the lakes. And I swear to you, every time when I was 13, 14, and I fell off an inner tube and I was waiting in the water for that tube to come around, I've never felt right. But when I went to bed, I never thought about Freddy. I never worried about any of that. But I think because the kids are in danger, because he deals with something like water, that it's like when you're in it, you already feel a little bit off. So I think it's just such a smart move by Spielberg and writers, and even Benchley, to sort like Jurassic Park's never scared me because it's dinosaurs. Like I think there's something visceral and real about Jaws, and then the amount of victims that have been attacked that really helped this movie age well, because that could be anybody in there. I just think it's such a smart decision.
Well, we've had Richard, we've had your daughter Amanda on before. Has she been in the sea yet, ever?
I don't think that she's gone past her ankles.
Wow.
Because of this film.
Yeah, no, I'm anxious to someday do one of those viewings where you sit in an inner tube on a lake and watch the movie. And I know that she will just not do any such thing. It's just never going to happen. She doesn't like the beach. We lived in Southern California forever, and she'd never liked going to the beach. And she sure as hell wasn't going out in the water. She just didn't like that thought at all. And Mark, I don't know if you've heard the story. My daughter Amanda saw this movie when she was 4. It was kind of an accident. We screened the movie for the kids, and we covered their eyes when things were happening, and we kind of edited it along so it wasn't as traumatic as it actually is. And of course, my mother babysat them one night, and they told her that, oh yeah, we've seen it, we can watch it. And so she ran it for them, unedited, as they say. And it's been the film that's frightened her the most, and it's her favorite film since she was 4 years old.
Wow. And I think for kids, you see kids in it. So you see yourself plus the water. And it's like, it's very devious, but it's also, I think, part of its effectiveness. Because this is quite a mean movie, too. I mean, what I like sometimes about Spielberg is mean Spielberg, like War of the Worlds or Jurassic Park 2, the Nedry's death in Jurassic Park 1. He'll blow, like when Spielberg goes mean sometimes, like he can go there, and I kind of dig, like he has those sensibilities, and it makes me happy. I like that about him.
Yeah, but he's not afraid to kill a good guy. Like Saving Private Ryan is full of killing the good guys again and again and again.
When Giovanni Ribisi makes that speech about his mom,
yeah,
he's like, I don't know why I did that. I just didn't. She wanted to talk to me, and I pretended like I was asleep, and then he dies.
Well, you got Vin Diesel going to help save a little girl, reminds him of his niece, and he just gets killed. And
then that Adam Goldberg death, oh man, you're a jerk, Spielberg. you know what I love too is he did that scene in Saving Private Ryan ahead of schedule and under budget, so you can tell he learned from Jaws. Of listen, I'm not doing this. Like we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna get fake. Like we're just gonna shoot in Ireland on a beach, and we're gonna go very, very fast. So I appreciate that he learned. Makes me happy. What are y'all's favorite moments in this movie, Richard? Like what's a scene that you watch that always gets you?
Well, obviously the Indianapolis speech is one of those moments. It's like I could watch that over and over again, and that whole sequence is great. But and the opening scene with Chrissy in the water, that's terrifying. I kind of like that whole sequence with Brody in his office typing up the report, and he's just he's trying to do the report, but he's distracted by the two guys he's just brought in who are also taking the bromo seltzer at the same time he is, and Polly coming in and lecturing him about what's going on and how to do things, and he's having to deal with the mundane stupidity that a police chief in a small town like that has to deal with. The kids karate chopping the fence and the
illegal
people
parkers,
with illegal parking. Somebody, those license plates from New Hampshire, damn it. And then he goes to the art store or the hobby store, and he's trying to get stuff to make the signs up. And in the background, you hear the owner bitching to the jobber who didn't bring him the stuff that he needs. I like all those scenes that tell you something about the community there. The sequence in the city hall where you can hear all the people in the background grousing about what's happening and how's it going to get handled. Those scenes are terrific. They're just a lot of, it creates a real personality to the movie in addition to our main characters.
And when he's on the phone, Mrs. Brody and his kid are in the background washing their hands, and they're talking while he's on the phone.
Yeah,
that's hard to do.
Yeah,
I think that. Yeah, oh yeah, you're right. But I mean, what about? I think Goonies does a good job at that. But then I feel like other movies try to do it, and it feels so fake. It hurts. It crushes my soul. But it feels organic to this story, so I dig it. I think my favorite scene is when the shark kills the guy in the rowboat, because it's just a dude chilling, and it goes into the lagoon, and you see I guess I just like overhead shots, which I figured out a while back, but the overhead shot of it under the boat, just eating that guy. And then he swims past the kid. And it's such man, what a mean moment. And what a great shot. And that's my favorite. That's my favorite scene by far in this movie, I would say.
And it's a better scene because they cut out the part where the body of the guy is in the shark's mouth when it goes past Sean.
Oof. Yeah, you don't need to see that, right? And the guy's going, help me.
Yeah, the leg on the floor of the ocean was enough.
Yeah.
I love its introduction. It's in the town meeting, the nails on a chalkboard. You'll know me, you know how I make my living. And that's just a one. He just comes in. You don't see him enter the room. I was trying to see him enter the room this time. I couldn't see him. So I like that he's just always there. He comes with the room. And he just steals the film away. He's in one scene that you don't see him again for like half an hour. But even still, you're always thinking, "Where's Quint? What's he doing? This is his film. What's going on?" So I love that, and I love Mayor Vaughn. I always remember as being like he's the main bad guy of this film. But he has quite a small bad guy arc. He's got his best. He's got the town's interest at heart. You can see exactly where he's coming from.
He's like most of us. He's rationalized this fear. His kids were on the beach too.
Yeah.
Brody's kids were on the beach. They've talked themselves out of the idea that this is something that's going to be a problem. We're just going to act like everything's normal, and it's stupidity, not malevolence, that's going on there. It's the inability to imagine the worst happening. And that's what creates the problem, as opposed to sometimes people's inability to imagine anything but the worst happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's frustrating when he says like, "Oh, so you haven't got the tooth anymore." Huh.
Oh
yeah.
That's
a little bit like you don't need the
that
tooth.
would have made the difference in him believing what was going on.
But when he tells one of his underlings, "Go in the water, take your children into the water," and then just seeing the underling and his wife looking terrified, taking their 3 kids in, and you really just screaming, "No, don't turn back, turn back!" But then that leading to the kids playing around with the cardboard fin and just that stampede, trampling people out of the water. How many people got injured there? We never really find out. I wanted when they go to the hospital with the kid later. I wanted there to be this bays of people who have been trampled.
2 or 3 of those old people who have had heart attacks or
ice packs on their faces with
yes, exactly.
a lot of gauze around heads. That's too expensive, right? Too many extras right there.
Yeah, maybe. Well, they had them all in the beach scene. They're mostly locals, I believe. They use a lot of people from the town just as the extras in this film. So, yeah, why not?
I mean, great extra work, by the way. Packed beaches.
Realistic bodies as well. It's actual, real-looking people Yeah, because they've
My
got
hope
real
is to
people.
meet some of them in 2 years when we're going to go back to Martha's Vineyard for I'm sure they're going to do a 50th anniversary
Oh,
activity. And
God.
I'm sure all those people that live there and were working as extras at some point or other show up, and they probably have little queues of people lined up to give autographs. I'm going to take my laser disc and have all of them sign it.
I was person on the beach number 3.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I
I
was
was
right
Sean's friend.
I was the kid on the raft that the guy threw off.
there. Oh yeah, just barreled those kids. Oh,
Is that
It-
raft going to be much use to him in getting out of the sea through the throngs of people? I don't think it is.
no, but I mean they'll be behind him.
Or under him. And
Yeah,
he just
exactly.
steamrolls over them.
So then they'll be more likely to be eaten. Then.
Yeah, I don't have to be faster than the shark. I just have to be faster than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the slowest person. Is that what it is? But no, yeah, it's like I like that Spielberg said he had to go back and sort of think about what Hitchcock would do. Like, what would he show? What would he do? And I think that, I don't know, at 27 years old, that's pretty mature for a film director.
I heard a
to-
story about like how Spielberg loved Hitchcock. And Spielberg was friends with Bruce Dern, who was having lunch with Hitchcock one day, and Spielberg was waiting outside the restaurant. This was after Jaws had come out, so I think Bruce Dern was meeting with him about Family Plot, Hitchcock's last film, which I like. And Spielberg was like, Bruce, if you just ask him, I'm here, I want to meet him, I'm just a big fan. And Bruce like came out and was like, he doesn't want to meet you. I don't know what it is, he doesn't want to meet you. And then while Spielberg was outside dejected, a bunch of kids came up and asked him to sign like posters for Jaws. And Hitchcock left the restaurant, looked over, saw Spielberg signing this stuff, and just got in a car and left. Like, like, I don't know who to root for in that story, but it's not. It doesn't paint Hitchcock in a good light. Not that many things about Hitchcock do, I guess.
I mean, he did drug people and leave them overnight in studios.
He tied birds to people and filmed them. Like, he's not a good guy.
Tippi Hedren was on the set of Jane Mansfield's car.
Were the birds still tied to her? But she got
I
them
asked,
off
I
that
tried to, I kept my mouth shut, but I was a stand-in. But I'm like, hey, can I tie a bird to you for old, like, can I? No, not at all. But that was cool seeing her. I was like,
You
oh
signed
my
this
gosh,
chicken foot for me?
this movie's stacked. And John Hurt was on there. Alien John Hurt.
Yeah, alien.
He's not alien. And Spaceballs, I would say.
Yeah, and Harry Potter.
This movie's tough to talk about because this is my favorite
is there
film.
left
Deep Blue
to
Sea is my
say?
favorite movie, and Deep Blue Sea is my favorite movie, and my favorite flick is Shark in Venice.
Oh, it's changed. It used to be Jaws: The Revenge.
Yeah, listen, when there's a scene in Shark in Venice where I think Stephen Baldwin thought there was going to be music playing over one of their scenes, so he's walking with his girlfriend, going, "Look at those thingies, and then check out these thingies over here. Look at that thingy. Oh, there's some thingies up here." But I swear to you, he thought that there was going to be music playing over him. But then they just left that take in, and he's just telling a woman to look at thingies.
A woman? You mean Scarlett Johansson's sister? Thank you very much.
Yes, go Johannes. But yeah, the whole franchise. I think I was listening to Dead Meat as a refresher when I was driving, not watching it. I was just listening to it about this episode, and he said it's one of the most unnecessary shark franchises ever. But I think there's things to like in all 4 of these movies. I mean, there's a psychic bond between the shark and Mrs. Brody in the 4th one, and the shark sets a trap. The shark sets a trap to kill the kid in the first kill. Like, that's a trap.
So we've now covered all 4 Jaws films. We
Yeah.
had Richard on to talk about Jaws 2. Back when I hosted the Lambcast, Richard was my co-host, I pitched doing a Jaws franchise look back, which before I'd seen 2 through 4, and Richard, you were vehemently against doing that. And now I've seen them all. I don't understand why, because 3 and 4 are a lot of fun to talk about.
Well, 3 is tolerable. It's got stupid elements to it, but it's also got some interesting points to it. 4 is just it's a pile of crap, and I'm not stepping in it. I'm not stepping in it again.
I did the math and I figured out where the shark from Jaws: The Revenge swims and how fast this shark swims. I'm trying to pull it up right now, but my computer's freezing. But yeah, the shark, like the amount of time that the shark needs to get
the
to
locations in the film.
Yeah, let's see. I tracked the journey. and I did a little map, and I love the banana boat scene, by the way. Makes me so happy. That banana boat scene is amazing. So the shark ends up covering, let's see, it covers 1,500 miles in the film. So on December 19th, it sets a buoy trap and kills Sean Brody, which I love. And then that's when it connects a psychic link with Ellen, because at that when he dies, she feels it. So then the shark and her become connected. And then on 12/20, the shark starts swimming, and it gets there on like 1/2. So on like January 2nd, which I kind of love. Wait. Making this. No, wait. On the 26th. So it took 6 days for it to swim there, which is doable. I just want to let everyone know that.
If you're a shark.
Happy. Yeah, the great white shark took 6 days. And I figured out how fast sharks can swim. So like Roger Ebert famously said that it flew down there and there's no way possible, but the shark could have done it. And then it just chases Mrs. Brody around because it has an internal GPS whenever she steps into water. Because there's a scene where she steps in water and both her and the shark are like, oh yeah. It's like when you put the ring on in Mordor or wherever in Middle Earth. Sauron can sense where you are. But I just want to let everyone know.
Jaws the Revenge is the equivalent of Orca the killer whale. It's just a ridiculous notion about the connection between the prey and the predator. And it's perfectly fine if you like that kind of stuff, which, Mark, I know you like that kind of stuff. But for somebody who is into the drama and the reality of the first film, it is so god-awful.
But here's the thing, though. This is my thing about Jaws. Jaws is one of the greatest movies ever made, right? So to compare other movies to Jaws isn't really fair because, like, well, if someone goes out and scores 10 goals in a soccer game, and then the next game they score 6, I'm not saying Jaws Revenge is 6 goals, but like no one's gonna be like, well, they didn't score 10. Like they're like, but like I think with Jaws, they're like, oh man, here's this awesome Deep Blue Sea. Well, it's not as good as Jaws. It's like, well, it's not trying to be, but it's still a really good movie. So I guess comparing things to one of the greatest films ever made, like an absolute unicorn in cinema.
I was gonna go the exact opposite direction. I said in the Jaws franchise, you have the greatest film ever made and one of the worst films ever made. Yeah, and you could compare every terrible movie to Jaws the Revenge, and it would be easier than comparing Jaws to Jaws the Revenge.
You know what I like? Jaws the Revenge is fun though. You have no fun with it.
No, I saw it once, and it's like the second 2 Alien films. I saw it once, and I said, I don't ever need to see that again in my life, and if I'm lucky, I'll forget that I did.
See, I feel like comparing films to, like, it's not as good as Jaws is so patently unfair because I feel like when they made Jaws, they weren't trying to make a film as good as Jaws turned out to be. Yeah. They were just trying to make, like, this is Spielberg's idea of a Roger Corman film. He's going to make it as best as he can, but he wasn't setting out to make the highest grossing film of all time. That wasn't his goal. He was trying to make a great film, and he made one of the best films ever. Like, so to say something that's not as good as Jaws.
Yeah, of course not.
Jaws in Spielberg's head isn't as good as Jaws. What was released. So,
yeah, you can't recreate it, right? Like,
if you try, you'll fail. Yeah.
And what I find is interesting. Like, Alien had a lot of problems. And whenever I hear about a movie, they're like, "Oh, we had such a great time filming this." I'm like, "Oh no." Sounds like you had a great time filming it. That worries me. Like,
the production of The Godfather was so problematic that they had to make a TV series about the production of The Godfather and how problematic it was. I feel like they could make
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, the second season of The Offer could have been about Jaws.
You guys know about the play, right?
Wait, can we cast this, guys? Can we cast?
The shark isn't working.
I know the play exists, but I haven't seen anything about it.
I haven't seen it yet. It opens at the end of July on Broadway.
What's it called?
The Shark
isn't working. It's by Robert Shaw's son, who stars in it, and it's apparently played in London, and it was quite successful.
Yeah, I've
seen
it.
And it's mostly a comedy, about the backstage between the three actors making the movie.
That's amazing.
See, I've only recently found out that we get musicals and theatre productions before America by some margin. Like Mark and I were on Out Now with Aaron Abe recently to talk about The Dial of Destiny, and one of the guests, Max, was talking about Back to the Future the musical has just come out in America. I'm like, but I saw that months ago. That was out here last year. But we get things so early here. I'm gonna have to go and see more theatre just to get one up on Americans.
Yeah, just send a picture. Be like, hey, I'm checking out Spamalot. Yeah. If there was an offer, season 2, about this movie, do you think? Oh man, what's his name? He played Magneto in the latest X-Men. Fassbender. Would he be a good Quint in the offer?
Oh. See, I feel like we need to cast somebody older, just because Robert Shaw look. I know he was like 45
Fassbender's
in this.
older than he used to be.
Right, but he's not as old as Robert
he
Shaw
might very
looks
well
in
do
this
it.
film. So I
Like,
get
how
Robert
old
Shaw's-
was how old was Shaw when he made this movie?
He was, I think he died when he was 50. So this was so he was like 45.
He was 48
And
when
then-
it came out. 47, 48.
Oh wow.
So,
So Fassbender.
in 2023 years, we just cast somebody who's 60, I think, to look like Robert Shaw did in 75.
Oh yeah, Fassbender's only 45.
I'm thinking like Russell Crowe.
That's pretty funny.
Well, you could cast him as the shark.
Yeah. So Russell, who would be good? Who would be good as Quint?
We could like Quinn.
Would Jay Baruchel be good as Dreyfus?
That's a
Yeah.
funny idea. That's a funny idea.
Who would be Brody?
Who would be
Miles
Brody?
Teller again. He would just come back from.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I like the Miles Teller for Brody. That's an easy one.
Who would be Spielberg? Who could play a 27-year-old Spielberg?
You could just use the kid from the Fablemans, I guess. Make
there you
it
go.
part of the
Yes,
part of the
there you go.
Fablemans verse.
That's brilliant. That's the way to go.
There it is. That's great. I'd watch this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to get someone playing George Lucas to get his head stuck in the shark's mouth behind the scenes.
Hey, let's play. Yeah, how stupid is that? That makes me so happy.
Whoever the producer is, whoever their wife is, just get them to play Lorraine Gary. Just make this as meta as possible.
Who's in charge of the studio right now? Cast her.
She's good though. I like her.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing against her casting. I think she's fantastic, and then she's like she keeps coming back for these films. So,
Yeah.
why not?
Let's see. No, I like our casting. I like that. The kid from the Fable. You just solved it. That's annoying.
You know what? Samuel Jackson for Quint.
Yes. He'd be amazing.
He's over 60, but okay. Yeah.
I would love to hear his monologue.
Yeah.
Let's get this mother effing shark out of this mother effing Cape Cod Ocean.
900
There we
mother
go.
effers fell in the water that.
Anyway, we delivered the mother effing bomb.
Yeah. I've never really noticed Hendrix, Brody's like second in command before. He's like deputy. Just being a goofball in the background of a bunch of scenes. Like when he's trying to get his attention, when other people are setting off on their boats and he like throws some stones at a window, he just waves back at him. It's like, hey guys, that's good.
Hey.
Oh, get back in here. Come on, do some work.
What's wrong with my printing?
Oh yeah. Oh gosh.
Let Polly do the printing.
Yeah, what's
So,
wrong
this
with
is-
mine?
This is a small town where there's never been any crime. So yes, of course the deputies you've got are going to be useless. Of course they are.
I agree.
That's like the backup job for like you drop out of school, you become the police officer. It's like you've got to do anything, put your feet up. We have to mention Mayor Vaughan's jacket, his anchor printed suit jacket. It's a thing of beauty.
It is indeed. I like the colored striped one too. So
Yes.
I would wear either of those.
And the two guys just doing some shark fishing with a frozen roast. Just a couple of idiots. Always love buffoons. They should have died. How they survived, I don't know. But I really like that sequence as well.
That's a crazy scene though. That's so stressful, that moment. Just when the thing starts turning around back towards them
Yeah.
It's just a raft.
Swim.
It's just like a bit of detached pier, and it's so scary.
And then it just comes back. Like, oh man, such good filmmaking. Hey, so Jay, what's what's the similarities with this and Deep Blue Sea?
Okay, I have a list of how is Jaws like Deep Blue Sea. It should really be more like how is Deep Blue Sea like Jaws. Anyway.
Jay, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. On
Go.
the final episode of Con Air, the podcast, Jay unleashes this amazing Con Air quiz about the book and the movie. And I suggested to Jay that we should move it to the front of the episode. And Jay probably said like an all-timer Jay line. He's like, they got to earn it. And everyone just started laughing. Like Megan and I were laughing about that the other day, Jay. It's like there's an all-timer Jay line in the latest episode 39 of Con Air, about an hour deep. If you want to laugh, you got to earn it.
The most work I put into any episode is buried into an hour into the last one. I read a whole book for that segment.
I wish you would have.
But I read it.
Listen, I probably should just let you talk, but if you would have told me, I would have been like, "That's it," because you have content for this episode.
You had to earn it as well.
Yeah.
So how is Deep Blue Sea similar to Jaws? There's a shark in it. We see things from the shark's point of view. It starts with partying youths. Chrissy is dragged through the water by a shark, just like Preacher is. The main character is an outsider from where he is, just like Russell was. Pet is eaten, belatedly. Pipit. Born off Pipit. Brody is reprimanded for smoking, just like Jim is. The autopsy. There's a tiger shark that's eaten a license plate with a license plate of 007981. It's the same license plate as films. Homage. There's a shark expert. There's a dead body underwater jump scare. The Ben Gardner head and the Jim head. There's a boat full of people. There's a helicopter. There's a detached leg, but it's not twitching in Jaws, unfortunately. The shark is described as a smart big fish. And the ones in Jaws, Deep Blue Sea are extra smart. There's a harpoon gun. Quint has a traumatic backstory, just like Russell does. The shark attacks a small boat during a party. The communications are destroyed. A boat is destroyed. A facility sinks, which is a shark's plan the whole time. The shark explodes in a big cloud of blood and viscera, and there are 2 survivors at the end on a small platform. That's how Jaws is similar to Deep Blue Sea. But how deep and how blue is Jaws? Richard, as I'm sure you know, Deep Blue Sea is about 14.5 meters deep and 31% blue. Do you think Jaws is on average deeper and or bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
It's deeper, but not bluer.
You want to switch that around?
Oh, would that make me fit in better with the rest of the crowd here? Is that it?
Well, it is.
It's bluer and not as deep.
Yes. Of course, it's not deeper. They barely go underwater. There's only like a bit of like Hooper goes in a shark cage and there's like a leg drops down. There's a few bits that are underwater, but on average, this is about a foot up in the air, 34 centimeters. But blueness, this is 45% blue. This is quite a blue film. Like all the stuff that at night, because they shot day for night for most of it. It's all like got this lovely blue tint on it.
Well, the bluest part is right at the beginning when Chrissy takes her clothes off to get in the water.
Absolutely, yes. It's not that kind of film. There's that kind of film. But then there's all this like bright ocean and bright skies. It's a very blue film. And positioning in the chart, this is depth-wise, this is deeper than Shark Night, but less deep than Anaconda. Doesn't matter. Blueness, it's bluer than Jaws 3D. It's less blue than Jaws: The Revenge. We've got 3 Jaws films all grouped together on the sheet, and all 3 of them are a little less blue than Jaws 2. Jaws 2 is the bluest of the Jaws films. But
That's amazing. I love these lists. These are great.
It's such a silly thing, but I spend so much time doing it. So that's Jaws. Richard, did you have anything else you want to talk about with Jaws?
Oh, we could talk about a whole bunch of other things. I love the fact that we've got, dozens of places where they couldn't use the shark and they found something else to do. And that creativity works really well. Sometimes it builds incredible tension. Like I said earlier, the fishing reel clicking off a little bit at a time. I love that moment in the movie, just get click, click, click. And we've talked about the barrels. The music of the movie is probably the most well-known thing outside of the image on the poster. Everybody knows that those, cello notes, and that's it. That's all you have to do, and everybody knows what you're referencing. But that's, of course, not the whole theme. And if you watch the movie without the music, when they're out on the sea chasing after the shark, it's a sad experience. The music is one of the things that makes that whole sequence come to life. And John Williams didn't just write the Jaws theme, he wrote the whole score for this movie, and it's fantastic. So people should never ignore the rest of the music, even though the one thing is so notable.
And Spielberg thought he was joking initially. He thought it was a prank.
Yeah.
It's a bit. I love that.
I have the Mondo soundtrack of Jaws. It's like one of my favorite soundtracks. It's beautiful just to listen to that. And just also the very peppy music too, when they are hitting with barrels and it really hits you up, like you get pumped. Like there's good times to be had.
Yeah, no, it's energetic and it's an adventure, and even Brody is leaning into it for the moment, you know. So they actually have this moment of hopefulness because of what's going on, and the music facilitates that hugely. I also like the fact that there's kind of some reference when they're on the beach on the 4th of July. You get references to the contemporary music, what was contemporary at the time. I'm sure that that's music that was inspired by, it may be directly from The Sting that's playing in the background while we're on the beach and everybody is listening to that. The music from The Sting, the ragtime music, was so ubiquitous in 1974, the year after The Sting came out, and that's when they were filming Jaws, so it probably just made sense. We'll just have this as background music. So you've got, great music in the background there too.
Sure,
and Olivia Newton-John also.
This movie's just too good. It's just too good.
Yeah, I mean, there's everyone else has already covered Jaws in every other podcast. So I feel like there's not a lot more we can add. You know, Brody's face when he sees the shark on the boat is great. The Quint pronouncing Denise like Demise. What is that? What is he doing? I don't know. It's just the Warner shot on the ferry. That he doesn't even check the sheep shank or not. There's every little bit of this is great. Perfect.
Yeah, this could really be an and then episode.
Yeah.
And then that's amazing, and this is amazing, and then that's amazing, and then that scene, and then that scene. But no, I'm glad we had to talk about it. This is my favorite film. It really is. This, Deep Blue Sea, and Shark in Venice, or Jaws of Revenge, depending on the day, depending on the banana boat scene.
And they're finally making a Lego version of the Orca.
Yes.
Come out next year,
Yes.
I think. Cool. Yeah.
And I'm buying it.
Me too. Great. Well, Richard, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, just this year on my website, I'm doing the usual every movie I see in a theater that I put a post up on, but I have Throwback Thursdays going on this year. And so Throwback Thursdays, every Thursday you're getting a post on a 1975 movie. I'm still getting ready to do Jaws. I haven't done it yet, but you'll get a lot of films that you'll be familiar with and a whole bunch that you'll have never heard of. And that's a lot of fun. And of course, every week on the Lambcast, we have other Lamb members, who have things to say and they want to talk about stuff.
I'm looking forward to the upcoming Dark Angel Movie of the Month episode. I'm not on it, but I'm looking forward to watching that film and then listening to the episode.
I have no idea what this movie is.
Yeah.
Adolf Fights Drug Dealers. It's on Tubi. It's wonderful.
Mark talked about it on every podcast he's been on with me recently. It comes up.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right.
Well, Mark, any plugs?
Yeah, let's see. I got 2 episodes coming out. I watched the entire Mission Impossible franchise. I broke it down to the numbers, so watch by the numbers on Fandom. And then I did all of Nolan's movies. So I got another episode coming out of By the Numbers for him. I'm updating my Tom Cruise running article for Rotten Tomatoes, so that'll be up soon. And then I'm writing for Ringer now. It's finally official. The Ringer, I'm finally writing for him. So if you'd asked me 3 months ago what my number one place to write for would be, I would have said The Ringer. Then they messaged me, and now I'm writing for them. So freelance, but it's cool. So the occasional article for them will be coming out. So very excited.
Your first one's out. The magical sports movies. Yeah.
And they tweeted out, they're like, by M. Hoffmeyer, like my favorite websites, like M. Hoffmeyer wrote for us, and like they're promoting me, and it doesn't feel right. Like I should be like, thank you guys, thank you, not like, hey, we have Mark Hoffmeyer writing for us. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's cool. I got a lot more work to do for them. Who knows how many more I'll write, but I got one out, so I'm very happy.
They're lucky to have you.
Oh, it's crazy. It's I can't. I can't wrap my head around it yet, so I'm very excited.
Excellent. I have nothing as exciting as that. Go listen to Con the podcast. We've done the whole thing now, so this will be the last time we plug it, probably. It's all episodes of Con the podcast out. There's like 39 chapters and an interview and a bonus and a bunch of bonuses. So go listen to that on Con the podcast.
Actually, go check out my writer's bio, Jay. Check out my writer bio on the bottom of the article. I got a Deep Blue Sea podcast plug in there.
I will do that. Excellent. I'm glad to. It's fantastic. Thank you. that's
thousands of new listeners.
That's right.
And now we're doing Jaws, so of course. And the 700 Lambcast episode is coming out relatively soon, and I think I'm going to be on that.
Yes, you will be.
Topic unclear, but
sure.
I'll be there. So about that. So, and now we finished Con Air. Hopefully, Lampardy will start back up again over on the Lambcast. So movie trivia monthly, roughly, with me as the host on the Lambcast feed. But as for Jaws, I'll do it for Jaws. Thank you once again to our guest Richard Kirkham.
Glad to be here, and remember, always let Polly do the printing.
I've been Jake Lewis.
And I'm Mark Hoffmeyer.
And we'll Deep Blue see you next week. It's a week again, not just soon.
It feels so good.